Okay, this is Critical Discussions, episode 12. Let's talk about the latest events that happened last week, basically. And we're going to talk about the explosions on Nord Stream. We're going to talk about Russian mobilization. And maybe we're going to discuss a few little things as well in the process. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. And this is the big news. The diversion, some sort of explosion that's happened in Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 pipelines that delivered gas from Russia to Europe. And it just happened on 26th of September, 26, 27, somewhere there. And yeah, who needs this? Who's going to be sort of benefiting from it? Or like, why would somebody do this? And obviously, one instant sort of country that has some sort of benefits or at least some sort of motives for this is Russia, obviously, because Russia was trying to basically extort Europe to stop the sanctions, so on and so forth, stop sending weapons to Ukraine, stop helping Ukraine, so on and so forth. And Europe or United States, UK, they have not stopped this. They continue to support Ukraine, and Russia already stopped several times Nord Stream 1 because Nord Stream 2 was never actually in operation. So they stopped Nord Stream 1 two times in July and in August. And basically, the whole September, the Nord Stream was not operational. The whole gas, the whole amount of gas, whatever limited it was, 20% or so, that Europe was getting from Russia, basically, was through the Ukrainian pipeline, through the transit that goes through Ukraine territory. Which is kind of weird that, on one hand, kind of weird that Russia still continues to send gas through Ukraine, and with these pipelines, they most likely it's them who actually destroyed them, and why. Like, this is like, you need to understand this kind of a sort of thinking, right? On the one hand, Russia wants to held hostage basically European Union, especially Germany, with the gas, right? But at the same time, they also understand that at some point sort of the war will be over, and they cannot just like totally sort of stop the the gas flow because there will be sanctions, right? There will be sanctions. Their infrastructure might be just expropriated, nationalized by other countries, so on and so forth. And also, it will be fines, right? It will be fines by international sort of courts, so on and so forth, because of the broken contracts. Because if you sort of promise to deliver in your contract certain amount of gas at certain prices, so on and so forth, even if you are right now like the everything changed because of Putin's decisions and all of that, but the contracts, the contractual obligations are still there in place, and so if you don't fulfill them, well, once again, there will be fines, and this is why, like, even when Russia, very Kremlin, very clearly try to basically use it as a leverage tool against Europe in July and in August. They were always sort of doing it weirdly, right? They didn't just stop it right away. They said like, "Oh, we have like this turbine that needs to be replaced wherever we need to do some maintenance jobs, so on and so forth." So they didn't just like straight like just take it, take an L and just say like, "Fuck you, Europe." They didn't do that. They tried to use some sort of excuses basically to stop the gas flow. And now what Russia can claim and will claim most likely is this is like a force majeure situation, right? Like the situation that is like beyond whatever the contractual obligations might force them, or like whatever contractual obligations were described, sort of. This is sort of the same kind of a area, or could at least be in the same sort of area that some hurricane happened and destroyed infrastructure. Like, oh, sorry, we can't do anything about it, right? and this is I am all but certain that this is exactly what they will try to sort of claim, and they will try to use an excuse why they can't deliver any more gas. And in fact, they were saying exactly that, like sort of that basically like, oh, like we don't need we don't need this, basically, like we in fact like we want sort of to deliver gas to Europe. Like um, why would we basically um, get rid of like our not get rid of like blow up not get rid of blow up our infrastructure that we've spent like billions of dollars to actually create in the first place. And also, why would we sort of throw away billions of dollars of income? But at the same time, it's sort of we all need to understand that um, Europe was paying to Russia quite a lot of money for both gas and oil, and this war does not cost that much basically to Russia. So I'm pretty sure Russia calculated, decided that well, we will have enough kind of money anyway coming from like oil or maybe from coal, that type of stuff. And yeah, we're just gonna apply as much pressure as we can right now at this particular moment to Europe, onto Europe, and we will see if they break or not. If they actually decide, screw it, let's sort of roll the time back and kind of basically cave into this like um, demand of Putin. Um, at the same time, apparently it did not really work out in a sense that I mean we will see how Europe will react kind of in the long term, but like after basically a day maybe or two after this event happened, European Union, several people from European Union said that, well, first of all, this is not acceptable to attack kind of critical infrastructure in Europe, and we suspect the foul play from Russia, and we kind of we're investigating all of this and so on and so forth, but we also need to kind of take a look where that this thing happened, and um, first of all, it's kind of pretty big. When the leak happens, is at least from my understanding, first of all, it takes time. It's not just like a leak and then sudden explosion. It's a leak and gradually sort of the pressure um, drops, and you have to basically investigate where it happened, how, so on and so forth. But this was not the case at all. In fact, this was like two blasts actually with one pipeline and then another one, right? So even though Nord Stream 2 was not operational, from my understanding, there's still some gas inside of it. I'm not sure, like gas or some other, like inert gas, whatever it might be, to kind of hold the pressure, because otherwise because the pipes are laying on the floor, on the sea floor, is like 100 meters basically, or somewhere of that area, of that scale, and so there's quite a lot of pressure, obviously, on the pipe. So you need to counter that pressure from the pressure inside of the tubes, inside of the pipes. And so there was some pressure inside, and apparently, once again, not apparently, it is the fact that the Nord Stream 2 was also destroyed. So once again, like the pipes were doing fine for like 50 years or whatever, however long Nord Stream 1 exists. And then suddenly, in basically one day, both of the main major pipelines were destroyed. Like seriously, like it's not a coincidence. And that's why it's so bizarre that Russia's basically operate, like, I want to say covert operations, but they're not covert. They're not covering anything. Like there's no cover up. It's so blatant that, yeah, it's just so blatant that it's insane. So basically, here's this close to the, what is the island? What is the island name? There's this island name Bornholm. Basically, and close to that Bornholm island, there was these two explosions, right? And what's interesting is that that place is really close to Baltic pipe that Denmark, I mean, I guess maybe like Norway as well. I'm not sure who actually yeah, Norway probably created, and right now, just I think like a week ago, Norway and Poland basically put into operation Baltic pipe, because guess what? Like Russia is not the only one who has gas and like natural resources, so on and so forth. So Poland buying, energy from other countries, and this is a crucial thing to understand, and it's just so blatant, right? It's so blatant. The explosions are very, very close to the Baltic pipe, and so this is a direct threat. It is a direct threat to the whole Europe, saying like, do you know what? We don't really give a fuck about your money for gas. We can destroy our own infrastructure, and maybe we can't like really nuke you. Maybe we can't use nuclear weapons, but we can make sabotages and diversions and explosions like this on your infrastructure, or like close to your infrastructure, that it will affect how you operate, how much maybe time and money and so on so forth you have to spend to surveil your critical infrastructure. You need to spend more resources on it, things like that. This is so like, as the second you see the explosion, the region, and where the Baltic pipe actually goes through, which regions, which is so close that it's a direct threat, saying today it was our pipes because fuck you, basically. Tomorrow it can be yours. And I'm pretty sure this is exactly sort of the reasoning and the logic in Kremlin, in Putin's brain, and in all of his fucking mafia and criminals who are running the country of Russia, who are running FSB and all of the fucking, all of their brutal fucking apparatus, So yeah, this is not particularly, like I'm saying, not particularly even, they're not even trying to hide it, to be honest, because it is so blatant. It is exactly basically the same thing, and as in 2014, when green how was called, green polite man or whatever the fuck, green man basically, just armed people in green uniform, um, who came and sort of occupied Crimea basically. And Russia denied for the longest time that it was not them, not them, not them. And then in 2017 or 16, in an interview, Putin was directly saying and laughing that, yeah, of course it was us. Like, what the fuck? Why are you even asking? So, like, yeah, I mean, it's so blatant. Like I'm saying, this attack is directly attack on European infrastructure, on European security, and it is so fucking amazing to me that Germany still talks about, oh, we don't want to deliver tanks to Ukraine because it might trigger some extra escalation from Putin, from Kremlin in the war. Like, dude, they're literally blowing up your infrastructure, or not your infrastructure, but the infrastructure that's been set up to deliver gas to you, to Germany. And they're threatening another crucial piece of infrastructure, the Baltic pipe. And you're still talking about the fucking things that, oh, there could be escalation. This is just that part of this whole situation is absolutely mind blowing and mind boggling to me. That people in Europe, some people in Europe, some leaders in Europe, like, still talk about not, like, trying to not escalate it. Like, Russia is like constantly up in the game, constantly raising the stakes. I think it's time for a lot of European leaders to actually wake up and actually deliver real weapons to Ukraine. Because otherwise, this can continue for a long time, and this kind of terror acts. It is a terrorist act. Russia is a terrorist state at this point. They're blowing up critical infrastructure in Ukraine. They're killing civilians, murdering people left and right. They're destroying critical infrastructure, critical to Europe infrastructure. There are a terrorist state, and they should be recognized in the whole world as a terrorist state in United Nations. They must be stripped of their fucking presence in United Nations. They cannot like participate in whatever, having like a veto power, so on and so forth. Like, it's just insane at this point what Russia is doing, how they're threatening the whole world at this point, or at least big part of it. Because in Europe there are a lot of people living in Europe, and unfortunately there are a lot of countries who are stupid enough to fucking get on that Russian gas needle. So yeah. I wanted to mention one thing that I've noticed basically reading the news today, that a lot of countries right now, European, Western countries, um, asking their citizens or residents, whatever, to leave Russia, who are in Russia right now, to leave Russia. And it looks really suspicious because, well, mobilization in Russia started some time ago, right? Like a week ago, whatever. And we didn't see this, but literally like, yesterday and today, there are many reports that many reports from various different countries that say like, our citizens, please leave Russia. That reminds me of the same situation in 20th sort of numbers of February, or even just in February of 2022, because at that time I've started to notice a lot, like a lot of videos, I didn't pay attention at that point at all to all of this kind of rumors at the time. I thought it was just scaremongering, fear-mongering kind of things. But there were a lot of even like YouTube videos, even from the channels that I watch, that I'm subscribed to, that has nothing to do with like wars or whatever. Talking about potential Russian invasion of Ukraine, Russian full-blown war against Ukraine. I didn't believe at the time, like I'm saying, I was thinking it's just fear-mongering. However, turned out to be the truth, right? So right now, I'm kind of paying attention to this because, and I think everybody should pay attention to this because this is very coordinated. This is like United States asks their own citizens to leave Russia, right? Then then there were let me take a 1 second because I've definitely Poland, um, Bulgaria, Latvia, somebody else. I remember it was somebody else, maybe Germany. Someone else also said basically, leave Russia, and that's just like one day, basically 1 or 2 days. So I don't know if there's some basis to it, if they're just afraid that Russia will close borders and then the citizens will not be able to leave. I don't know. I don't remember anything like that. Any of those reports happened when Belarus was basically closing their borders since 2020 till 2022. Basically, the borders were closed for 2 years, 1.5 years or so, something like that. I don't remember seeing this. I mean, obviously Belarus is way smaller than Russia, but still. So feels like most likely intelligence from United States probably. They probably know that the borders will be closed very soon in Russia. Maybe even today, maybe tomorrow, maybe like till the end of this week. Who knows? Because apparently the referendums, so-called referendums, in reality just occupied territories of Ukraine will be kind of like officially annexed basically by Russia, and we're kind of a part of Russia as like Crimea is. And apparently Putin will say some sort of a speech at the end of this week. I'm not sure really, but maybe that's related, or maybe United States actually thinks that Russia might escalate this whole situation all the way up to actual nuclear war, and in that case, territory of Russia will be very unsafe place to be for said United States citizens, for example, because most likely Western countries will have to bomb the shit out of it, basically. And so maybe they're preparing for that kind of scenario as well. I'm not sure, but I'm really paying attention to this because, once again, it started very coordinated, and several countries, Western countries, like I'm saying, United States, saying the same thing or asking their citizens to do the same thing, just leave Russia. So yeah. Now let's basically talk about protests. Let's start with protest in Dagestan. Um, Dagestan, well, Chechnya region, basically, Chechnya region is basically exempt from mobilization, which is, I think I've spoken about it last week. If not, yeah, apparently Kadyrov just said, like, we've supplied enough of men already, and so he basically said to Kremlin that we are exempt from mobilization. So you just need to understand, right? Right now, basically, after Putin, the strongest dictator, authoritarian in Russia, is the head of Chechnya Republic. They've gotten a lot of weapons from Russia, sort of new weapons. Ramzan Kadyrov himself basically has a personal army that is based in Chechnya. They're not really sending their troops on the front lines. They're doing fucking TikToks after the territories were already occupied, and he's actually trying to preserve his army. Why he's trying to preserve his army? Because most likely, very likely, that when the Putin will be even by Putin's army, and Putin's own sort of personal kind of military, Rosgvardia, when they will be at the weakest point, I'm more than fucking sure that Ramzan Kadyrov will say that Chechnya now is not a part of Russia anymore, it's independent republic. If you want to do anything about it, come to us, let's fight. I'm pretty sure this is going to happen. But another region, southern region, Dagestan, is basically, it's not on the same scale, but also people with hot like blood, if you could say like that, um, with kind of a character, right? And in any other, it's so interesting to see it. They basically protesting. They're really protesting against this whole mobilization and shit like that, right? And seemingly, at least like there was some sort of a uh, law, not law, but kind of oh, what is pericos? Oh my god. Shit. What is pericos? Oh my god, my brain. Or a command or a decree, something like that. Um, yeah, like a decree or something like that. Apparently, there was a decree for Republic of Dagestan saying that mobilization should be over in Dagestan because they've presumably already taken enough of men from that republic. Which, if it's true, it looks legit. Um, is this decree of from 26th of September, 2022, number 283. Not sure if it's actually real thing. If it is, then it is absolutely amazing and insane that people actually went to the streets, took it to the fucking police forces, protested, and actually were able to, if it's actually true, were able to defend themselves basically from this mobilization, which is basically sure death. Now then, Russian people, a lot of them anyway, are quite xenophobic. And they're quite xenophobic to Chechen people, to Dagestan people, basically to people who don't look like regular sort of European, in a sense that like a lighter skin, lighter hair, stuff like that. I don't know. You can probably see, take a look like at Chechen people, to Dagestani people, and compare it to like I don't know, average Moscow citizen, whatever. Um, there will be some differences. So basically, Russians usually are quite xenophobic towards these minority regions, minority nationalities inside of Russia. But now, interestingly enough, they're praising them. Oh, amazing Dagestani people! Actually, you're my heroes. Great, great, great. All while the majority of Russians do not protest, and I can understand them. But at the same time, this is the example how you should behave. If everyone protests and everyone sort of stands for each other, stands together against this regime, again, if we are to be believed at this degree, but apparently that's the fucking solution how not to get dragged into this war. You need to protest, like really protest. Who knew? Who knew? And while this is happening, obviously a lot of Russian men are trying to escape. More than 250,000, right now probably more than 300,000, try to escape or have escaped already. However, right now, basically, regions that are adjacent to Georgia, like North Ossetia, for example, are closing sort of borders for basically cars that are not from that region. Which and also the Russians are setting up mobilization offices, mobile offices next to the border, or like at the border, at the control offices, basically at the border. And so you come to the border to cross it on the Russian side. So Georgia, Kazakhstan, um, Mongolia, for example, they did not forbid Russians to enter yet. It seems like they don't have plans about it, but it's the Russians on their side are closing the border, sealing it from the inside. Exactly the same how it was with Belarus in 2020. Um, so yeah, that's something that, and this is basically um, like the first steps basically for actually just closing the border all the way, completely. And also the thing that still exists in Russia, I don't know why. You have two passports. You have your internal passport and your external, like foreign kind of a passport. And I still don't know why they have two of them. Belarus has one. I think most countries have one passport. But basically, to go outside of Russia, you need to have like an international passport. And apparently, people who are basically people who are fitting in that categories of mobilization. Basically, if you're a man 18 to 60, that's basically it. You're gonna be shit out of luck because apparently they will not give you this passport, this foreign passport, international passport. So you will not be able to actually get out really. So this is still, and the Kremlin is saying that it decided not to close the borders to kind of not kind of um, undermine the trust to the government, which is, if they said it, it is all but 100% certain that they will close the borders, because every time Russian government has said something that we're never gonna do this, but like, this is not acceptable, this is not about us, this is just lies, rumors. Every single time that they've said it, they've done exactly that thing that they said they will never do. Easy example is the whole mobilization. On the 8th of March, Putin was congratulating sort of women with International Women's Day and saying that you can be sure your sons and husbands and brothers, whatever, will never be mobilized. Then they have been repeating the same shit over the course of the next months. Even on like September like 16th or whatever, they were saying there will be no mobilization, nothing will happen, and then boom, mobilization happened. So now, if they're actually officially saying, and which is basically what they're doing, officially saying that they will not close the borders, it is all but certain that they will close borders, and they will close it extremely very, very soon. So yeah. The same thing happens, like I said. There's like mobile mobilization offices are already in on the border with Finland, and happens the same there as well. Like, people are getting those mobilization notes, basically notices, whatever, papers. And what's interesting about the law is that until you are in the draft office, in the war office of Enkamat, you are just a civilian, right? And nobody can do anything to you. Even if you took that mobilization blank, mobilization papers, still they can't do anything to you, because you are still not like a liable, basically, army personnel. Let's put it that way. The second you step inside that office, you're fucked, because then you basically surrender your life. They can do anything to you. So what Russian people are doing right now, or at least some of them are doing, some of them are actually brain dead enough to go on their own to this военкомат things. But most of them, what they're doing is trying to not get those papers, mobilization papers, because if they don't have it, they just regular civilians. But like I'm saying, it's getting harder to actually avoid it, apparently, because even if you're trying to escape Russia, now at the border, basically border patrol works with conjunction with these mobilization officers who are like literally giving you that thing, um, and thus basically prohibiting you from leaving the country, because during mobilization these people who are liable for mobilization cannot leave the country. And once again, I'm saying that most likely in the next week, I guess I would say, maybe even just days, the Russian border will be completely closed. So it's not going to be even about mobilized, not mobilized. If you're like 18 to, or do you have the paper, or you don't, which fucking sucks for anyone who is against this war, and anyone who actually wants to, anyone who actually cares about their health. Let's put it that way, because yes, Dagestan region, Chechnya region, they they were able apparently to, at least to some degree, avoid mobilization and stand against this oppressive regime, against the police, against the fucking special forces, whatnot. It's really hard though. It is really hard to do though. Especially like if you're somewhere like in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, where the amount of those special forces, Rosgvardia, all that fucking cunts, is just through the fucking roof. Through the fucking roof. So I totally understand people who are just trying to fucking escape. Because you know what? All these amazing speeches about, oh, you need to fight for your freedom, blah blah blah, all this shit, like it's all good and well. But how many dictatorship, true totalitarian regimes have you seen being toppled simply by revolting people? It's almost none, because it's almost always some part of elites, some part of army, some part of like special forces. They switch sides, and then the kind of masses get this boost in morale, boost in firepower, even. Simple as that. Just people on their own destroyed the regimes, like toppled the regimes. Almost never. Maybe even never. I don't know exactly, but almost never 100%. You can see North Korea being North Korea for decades. You can see China tightening their control, like, year after year after year after year. Even after all the fucking protests, whatever. Hong Kong, you can see. Free territory, supposedly. The police was able to beat the protesters, and they were able to actually win there. The police, the regime, even though the whole world supported it. And the totalitarian, fucking brutal regime and machinery in Russia and in Belarus is way more brutal and way more sort of dangerous, and for people inside Russia, than almost in any other country. Yes, they're shit at war. Actually, they're garbage. But inside Russia, though, like they're not like throwing away that core personnel who is protecting Putin himself. They're not like throwing them on the front lines anymore. No, no, no. They're really careful with that manpower. Okay. Just quickly, let's mention this whole mobilization thing, because it's fucking travesty. Obviously, it's not gonna work. People, fucking officers, are sending 40 years old, 50 years old people to this to the war, to the front lines, and they basically, how they work is they're sending this mobilization notices, mobilization notice papers. Let's call it that, to everybody. They're just blank covering like everyone, and then the stupid people who actually went to these draft offices, then they're like the army is being selected. People are being drafted from that pool who actually were stupid enough to go to these voinkomats, to this draft offices. And so, yeah, like I'm saying, people of 40 years old, 50 years old, they're just going there. 35, doesn't matter. I don't understand what's in the brain of these people. I really don't get it. And in fact, I had noticed something that I didn't see before. Basically, there is this kind of a Reddit-like website for Russians called Peekaboo, and I haven't seen it before, and it started most likely only recently. That there's whole like mobilization hashtag now, and there are a lot of people, and I'm reading, or I didn't read a lot of them, but I checked a lot of posts. Basically, people are saying like the Peekaboo sort of users are saying like I got the mobilization paper now. Visited this Winkamat, and now I'm going to fucking to the war next week. Most of them basically saying that the whole army is woefully unprepared. There is no even equipment. There is no equipment. These people are sent to death without even equipment. I mean, on this, if you kind of think about that, it's sort of even understandable. Like, why would you fucking waste money equipping those people if you know, you meaning like Kremlin, Putin, all those fucking officers who actually send people to death to die? Why would you even equip them if you know that they're gonna die in the first whatever week, 2 weeks? Some of them, there are videos basically people from like remote villages, some fucking very poor regions of Russia, being sent once again on like buses to drafting sort of facility where they've been given like an AK-47 from like I don't know 1940s or whatever. They've been given like literally fucking helmets from World War II, and they're drinking. They're just like alcoholics, you know, like absolutely fucking just beaten by life people. So, like on one hand, you can understand that maybe they feel like they don't have anything to lose, but at the same time, you have everything to lose because it's your life, and even the worst worst living anywhere, like it's still like you still have some belief, some hope that things can change at least, like right, you can do at least something. In any case, but there are also people, users, who I'm pretty sure some users just straight up paid by Kremlin, who are actually writing big posts and saying like what should you take with you to the front lines when you get this mobilization paper. They're not saying like do not go under any circumstances to the drafting office. Do not like sign any papers. Don't do anything. Like make yourself as hard to get a target as you can. And instead, these cunts are just writing basically, yeah, you should take like boots, like freaking socks, whatever. Because like Russian army is literally um, so, how to put it? Oh my god, oh my god, my English today. Sorry. Plundered. Okay. So robbed, so plundered by the fucking generals, by higher top officials in the army, that they literally don't have anything. That's the reality, and yet some people are still going with their own legs, like like they're not being dragged by police or something like that. They're going themselves, Some are like, oh, like there was some mistake. I'm gonna go to Bankomat and I will fix the mistakes. And then the next thing your family knows after 2 days of your absence is that you're on the front line, right? And I'm not even exaggerating. This is exactly what has happened to several people. That's just insane. And once again, what I'm saying is that Kremlin and their paid psyops basically forces, they're using these resources like Peekaboo for to actually put very different message that any normal human being should suggest to people who might be drafted, whatever. They're actually suggesting, oh no, but you know, it's all fine, it's whatever, it's great, but just prepare, you know. Don't be just caught off guard. Just be prepared to go to the war. That is so disgusting. This is so disgusting because this is offensive war, unjust war started by Russia that's been going on a territory of another country, not inside Russia. So you can't ever claim that it's a patriotic, some sort of a great patriotic war number two. No, no, no. It's an offensive, disgusting war. And these people who are sending regular men to die because they will die there because Ukraine has artillery now. It doesn't matter if you have a fucking. And by the way, Russians don't even have, most of them, don't even have um, bulletproof vests. Or they're so weak that they can be literally penetrated uh, by small pistols. Not even like rifles or whatever, just pistols. There are videos on Twitter, on YouTube, where Ukrainians were doing just that, just testing and showing what kind of a shitty equipment Russians have. It's like it's a sure death, and Russia is using their because you gotta understand as well that Russian whole regime is just a fucking TV show in a sense, and they've been pretty decent, uh, trying to fool people, trying to disorient people, misinform people, and so on and so forth. And they're continuing this, like I'm saying, they're continuing this with using very sort of famous resources, and I'm pretty sure even administration of these resources to some degree, to actually basically force in kind of a covert way, force people to still mobilize and go there. I've noticed this. I've noticed this basically this week, that this started. When mobilization started, this whole psyops operation to convince Russian men to actually go to draft in offices and to prepare for this war and actually go and die for Putin's fucking yachts and for all of those Putin's mafia friends, billions that they've stolen already from Russian people. And now just go die for it. This is crazy. It's insane. It is insane. But that's the reality. And that's why it's so kind of weird and fucked up that, yeah, Europe is all in on Russian gas and oil, or was all in up until very, very, very recently. And yet those countries who bought and still buy directly from Russia gas and oil, even Baltic states, they're still doing it. Some of them are trying to do it like in some roundabout ways. Even though, like, I think it was Latvia who stopped buying gas and now try to or oil, and now tries to buy it through some, like, whatever, third parties. And now those states, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Poland, now Finland, those states denying entrance of Russians who are fleeing from, or trying to flee from, being sent to death. That's just so mind-boggling to me that it is actually um, Middle Asian, right? Like it's Central Asia, Asian countries like Kazakhstan, like Mongolia, like Georgia, who actually support regular Russians who do not want to die on this absolutely unjust war. Yeah, it's kind of insane that yeah, certain like I've said before already in previous episodes, certain countries, like I'm saying Baltic states specifically, showed their true face, that they are actually Russophobic. They're actually Russophobic, and they don't care um, if you are just an individual who just wants to live a life, normal life. It is so fucking amazing when you're already in a democracy to fucking say no, like you have to stay, and in fact, like let's send out all the people that already are inside of our countries with like Schengen visas. Let's but with Russian passports, let's send them out of our country back to Russia, so they will basically, yeah, fuck you basically. It is so disgusting. It is so disgusting. And this is what happens when people are protesting. Basically, a few people were detained after protests, and like a lady, Daria Ivanova, for example, spent 11 hours in the police over there, was called, and she was taken basically from her own flat, from her own apartment, and because she was spreading the anti-war pamphlets, basically leaflets, which was saying basically, we will deliver coffin in your house. Um, Basically, the government will pay for it. To order coffins, basically, go to the nearest военкомат, to the nearest drafting office. Who wants to be buried? Your husband, father, brother, son, and yeah, um, she was basically um, threatened there, that they might basically uh, find narcotics on her, and more to that, like they were saying that they can find narcotics in her ass, implying that they would literally like rape her in the ass to search it, for it. Just hear what I'm saying right now, right? You are in custody, like that's a real person. That's a real person who was trying to protest this thing. That's a real person who was taken from her apartments by police, detained in the police office, right? There is no signal, you can't call anybody. You are in the custody of sadists. You're in the custody of absolute fucking vile individuals, absolute scums of the earth. Because that's the only people who work in police, in those Rosguardia, whatever. Scum, absolute fucking scum. The the like the selection is like a negative selection. Like the good people will not survive there. So young lady is being searched and is being asked, like, should we search in your ass for fucking narcotics? And just so you know, like they would have done, they could have done it. They could have even find something, because they would put it there and just say like, okay, next 10 years you're in jail. Just for this, just for the pamphlet that exactly describes exactly the situation that Russia is doing right now, that the Russian government is doing right now. And that's not the fucking first thing. That's not the first incident that's happened. There was literally there were poets basically, and unfortunately I can't open because Mediazona, for example, is blocked. So it's really hard to even open the fucking. See, that's the even hardest part. That often the things are not even accessible. The information is not even accessible because it's all blocked. But basically, there were activists who were reading poems, the so-called Mayakovsky чтение, Mayakovsky reads, whatever. And one of them, this guy was, I forgot his name, but he was not basically, he was actually raped in the a man was raped in his ass was while he was in a custody of police, just because he dared to say something against this regime. It's just like people who live like even people from Ukraine, they think that oh, like we had our own revolutions wherever 2008, blah blah blah, that kind of shit. Like, no, people, none of you, unless you are from North Korea or perhaps maybe from like some China, Uyghur regions, wherever, or from Belarus, none of you know what it actually means to live in a fucking country with absolute brutal regimes. So yeah. Artyom Kamardin, that's the name of the poet who was raped by the cunts from MVD, Ministry of Internal Affairs. His girlfriend was tortured and his neighbor was beaten up. That's how they do it. They quite literally come to your fucking houses, take them out, like, yeah, raped in the fucking in the office, in a police office. Will these people be ever punished for this? If this regime stands, if Western countries keep buying oil and gas and paying billions and billions of dollars and euros to Russia, this is what happens, because the regime has money. Russian people cannot like just overthrow it by themselves, because, like I'm saying, you need some sort of elites that would help Russian people, if anything, just with weapons. And Baltic states are saying, no, go back to this country that literally takes you, police, the fucking people who's supposed to protect you from criminals. They are themselves criminals. If you're protesting against this regime and you get into custody of police, right? You get taken from the streets. That's your next step. You're being raped. It just so fucking pisses me off when cunts who live in democratic countries are saying that Russians should not flee, as if the fucking as if the other option is better. How do you supposed to fight against people who are equipped with literal like armor, who wear helmets, who wear like freaking I don't know, like bulletproof vests and whatnot? How are you supposed to fight against people who are equipped like that, like Russian OMON, for example, who have like those like riot shields, like I'm saying, who are equipped with armor, with batons, with everything? Like, how are you supposed to do any damage to these people if you don't have weapons? And Russians on scale, they don't have weapons. Most of them don't have weapons. Their shins are protected, their chests are protected, their arms are protected, their faces are protected. So how are you supposed to? And you have like absolutely unarmed people. How are you supposed to even beat these people? How are you supposed to get them unconscious? How are you supposed to actually I don't know, get them some sort of a concussion? If what, are you gonna be beating a helmet? Try to fucking punch a helmet. Let's see let's see what's gonna be stronger, the helmet or your fucking fists. I'll give you a hint. It's gonna be a helmet. People just don't understand just what it means to live in Russia, what it means to actually, like, what kind of people are in Russia, what kind of people are in those departments like OMON, like Rosguardia, basically those who are internal to Russia. They don't die anymore in on Ukrainian soil in this war. They're protecting Putin, they're protecting the fucking regime. And that's exactly the same thing. It was exactly the same. It's still exactly the same thing in Belarus. The same fucking cunts, the same very well equipped with weapons, lethal weapons, with shotguns, with rifles, and they will shoot people. They will shoot people because they do shoot people. If push comes to shove, they will shoot people. And they are brutal because they serve this regime. They don't serve the people. They serve the regime. It is regime who they're protecting. It is regime who pays them. And so how are you supposed to beat even one of these people if they're literally in a fucking armor? It's like fighting against Iron Man. And the second you are in a custody of police, you are fucked because nobody can help you there. Nobody can help you there at all, literally. Quite emotional today, especially about this thing about, yeah. And those notices, draft notices, they're been delivered even to to your work. If you're working, especially if you're working on a governmental sort of job, on a governmental like bigger factory, something like that. Yeah, you can go to work and you will get this draft notice because they have your information, where you are, where you're working, so on and so forth. How are you supposed to fight as a normal, like one single individual, right? Because it's also like, it's also this kind of just the thing about growing up, that you and your friends, the group that you maybe started with, like even if you're lucky to have like some company of friends, right? As you grow older, like one goes to one region, one goes to another region, one goes to one city, one to another city, and in the end, it's even hard to go to some protest because you don't know anybody. You don't have a company of people kind of living close together and who can actually coordinate and who can actually do something together. It's actually hard. That's why a lot of revolutions have been started with either, like I'm saying, some sort of like a part of army switching sides, or because they're already sort of close group, or students. Look at the fucking revolutions. It's most of the time it's like students who are big part of it because you're young, you have this flammable blood, and you are grouped together. So that group mentality, although it's bad in general, but in that case, when you need to protest, when you need to organize quickly, you can't do that because you are like studying in a group of 30 or whatever. And then, I don't know, like in a university on your like shift, wherever, it could be like 200 people from like different groups, different classes, wherever. You can coordinate. It's not like 50 years old man, 40 years old, like family men who start revolutions. Anyway, I think that's all I've got for you today. I didn't talk at all about like Ukrainian front lines, battlefield because there was not much going on. I feel like Ukraine is doing slow advancements in the south, some slow advancement in the east, and seemingly they're trying to group up. They're trying to prepare maybe for other offensive operations, counter maneuvers. We're gonna see about that. Maybe next week I'm gonna talk about it more. But this week and in this particular several days, yeah, these were the most important things to talk about. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please share this video, subscribe, like, follow, all the usual stuff. Twitch, YouTube channel. Yeah, share the videos because it really helps, especially for small channels. Yeah, subscribe to everything, criticaldiscussions.net, all the links. If you can donate, if you can support this channel, I would highly appreciate it. Once again, especially for a small channel, it is really big deal. So yeah. But if anything, yeah, at least subscribe, follow, and I'll see you next time. Take care and stay human. Just try to think sometimes what it means for other people, what they're dealing with. Okay. Take care. Bye bye.